The illustrious Randy Rainbow is in the house. The breakdown starts now. Good evening and welcome to the breakdown. I'm Tara Setmayer. The Rick Wilson is on vacation, but he will be back next week and we'll be back together to do our thing then. But tonight, very, very special show for you guys. A very special guest that I want to bring in, someone who has just been an absolute gem, national treasure during the Trump years. He's immensely talented. You know him as Randy Rainbow, and he is with me tonight, thus the glasses. And I just want to get right to it and bring him in. Randy Rainbow, honey.
Hi, Tara. You better wear your pink glasses.
Welcome. Now, thank you. You know I had to represent because these glasses are your signature. So, it would not be a proper introduction without me representing you.
I'd be offended if you didn't have them on. Meanwhile, mine are. I have pink glasses all over my apartment. So this is the pair that I keep on my windowsill here to do like my cameos and stuff. And they're not even pink anymore, frankly.
Oh, so my gosh.
You look much better than I do. I'll put them.
Well, thank you. No, I could never. This is your thing. But for those who don't know you, which I can't imagine who, why wouldn't they? What rock have they been under? But you are a 3-time Emmy-nominated comedian, producer, actor, singer, writer, satirist, and you are best known for your popular YouTube videos and the Randy Rainbow Show on YouTube. You're an author of a New York Times best-selling book. I'm thrilled to read more of it. I've read excerpts and it's been fantastic. It's called Playing with Myself. Which if you are familiar with your videos and you understand what the double entendre there.
I guess it is a double entendre.
Yes, I'm just thrilled to have you. And, things have been so heavy lately that I just felt we needed a break and we needed some levity and we needed some hope and some laughter, which is why I said, you know what? I think now's a good time to bring Randy Rainbow onto the breakdown with us here at the Lincoln Project. So let's have some fun.
Well, good luck because I'm depressed.
No.
No, I'm so glad. I'm honored that you would think of me when you want some levity and some light. I try to bring it wherever I can, but yeah, it's kind of tricky these days.
Yeah, we've had some tough times. It's a tough moment here in the country. A lot of tragedy and just, you're right. I don't think you're the only one depressed. I think there's like a national mood of depression happening here that I don't know what it's going to take to get us out of it. But I'm a firm believer, though, that, in the peaks and valleys of life, there things like music and art and the smaller things like that are the beauty of life, I think, is what we need to turn to in times of tragedy like that. And I put you in that category, and I just think that more people should hear from you and be blessed by your talent. But I want you to tell us, how did you first start to do this? What made you decide to do the parody videos from your apartment?
Well, it was kind of a means to an end. I came to New York. If you read the book, it's a New York Times bestseller, now available wherever books are sold.
Yes.
You'll hear the whole kind of story. But long story short, I moved to New York wanting. I grew up being an entertainer and being on stage. Moved to New York at 22. I was the youngest 22-year-old ever. I was still covered in amniotic fluid. And I was scared of my own shadow. So I didn't go pounding the pavement and auditioning for Broadway shows like my friends did. I worked, office jobs and things like that. Cut to YouTube starts, getting popular. And I just started, I figured, let me kind of make an audition tape, essentially, and put myself on camera doing what ended up being topical humor, just hoping that maybe someone would see it and pluck me and cast me in things. but that kept evolving, and I eventually added the parody stuff because I wanted to sing. I've always been kind of a musical theater person, and I don't write or read music, so I just started ripping off other people's, and it just kind of, it was a very organic progression.
Well, listen, there is a genius in being able to make parodies from originals. That it's similar to like sampling in rap music, right? Some people thought that that was ripping off music, but there is a genius that goes into, in the early days, not today's music, it's terrible, but in the beginning, in like the 90s, when hip hop was becoming so popular, taking, being able to hear those old records and taking those beats and turning them into new ones, that's a talent. So don't sell yourself short because you can't read music.
Well, I joke in the book, kind of half joke, that I am not a fan of parody. I never had been a fan of parody. Of course, now that it's my profession, I see it for the highbrow art form. It really is. But I think if you do it right and if you're careful about it, it is, as you say, it can be done really, artfully. And I am a fan, first and foremost, of musical theater and movie musicals. And I think one of the secrets to if I've had any success in the genre, is that I try to make every parody an homage, a loving homage and a tribute to the original source material. That's first and foremost. And I think that's important when you're doing parody.
Absolutely. And on that note, I want to play a clip from one of the first videos that I ever saw that my mom, I'm so grateful, discovered you first. She knows that I am obsessed with Mary Poppins. And she said, oh my gosh, you have to see this. This is freaking hilarious. Check out this Randy Rainbow guy. Here's the first clip. This is braggadocious.
And the reason I say that is not in a braggadocious way. It's because...
Braggadocious? Is that even a word?
I don't know, maybe. Who knows?
He's super callous, fragile, egocentric, braggadocious. Likes to throw big words around and hopes that we all notice. If he keeps repeating them, they might just make him POTUS. Super careless, fragile, ego, extra braggadocious.
All these.
Oh my God, it was genius. And, I said to myself, anyone that can take anything Mary Poppins and turn it into something politically hilarious, that's it. I was a fan from day one. That was 6 years ago.
Yeah. Mary Poppins, that will get you some fun. Everyone loves Mary Poppins. That is always a surefire hit.
Yes.
Anytime I use that.
Yes.
And I love that your mother introduced you to it. And didn't you bring your beautiful mother to one of my live shows?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, in 2019, we had an opportunity to see you when you came to Washington, D.C. There I am with my mom in our pink glasses. And you were kind enough to give us VIP passes so we could come say hello after the show. And yes, my mom was on, she was in Broadway in shows, and she was a dancer, and she, traveled all over the country in shows. So I have a love of musical theater and musicals as well, because of her, similar to you and your mom. Right.
That's been the nicest sort of surprise of this whole journey for me is, when I started doing it, it was the gays, it was the Broadways, the Broadway community.
Right.
And those were the people that I assumed I would hear from. But as it kept going and growing, I started hearing from the more serious journalistic type people that I would see, from Tara Setmayer to Jake Tapper and all these people that, you see very kind of prim and proper. Not that, you're always fun and fancy free, but that's nice. It's been nice to find out who's a closeted musical theater nerd.
Right. Because sometimes people outside of the gays and people who are in musical theater, a lot of people don't admit it. And something interesting about that is that my husband, who is 6'2", 240 from Brooklyn, and he's a federal law enforcement officer, right?
Is he single? Oh no,
no, he's not. But his favorite movie, when we were dating, and I found out that his favorite movie in the whole world was West Side Story, I swooned. And I said, "Oh my gosh, a straight guy from Brooklyn that loves West Side Story. When do we go to the altar?"
I'm in love with him. Oh my God.
Yes.
My type, Tara.
Yes. And so, so you'd be surprised who appreciates great music.
Well, it's such a it's like a little exclusive club. I felt that certainly, as a kid in high school. That was like a club that you were part of. If you found out someone else had the cast album to, Les Mis or whatever at home, and it was kind of it was a special thing. Now kids have access to finding their groups, on TikTok and everything like that. It's much easier to find, but it's a special thing.
Cast album? What's an album? Right? We're dating ourselves.
No, we're not. Next to me, I have. Well, this is not a cast album. This happened to be the first one I picked up. But I have. This is my new thing: is collecting cast albums now.
Us too. We started this during the
vinyl.
pandemic.
I'm doing vinyl.
We started this during the pandemic when we would go to antique shops. And we started a whole record collection. And I have to tell you that I squealed with glee when I found the original cast record for Oklahoma.
Girl.
Yes.
Girl after my own heart.
Yes.
And you're so vinyl specifically, you're getting back. I too found it during the pandemic. I got my turntable and started this collection.
Yep.
There's something in this time that we're in that's really special about a record album and being able, first of all, to hold it. This was always the thing that we missed about vinyl, is being able to hold it and read the liner notes, and it's right. It's an artistic thing. But to come over to your turntable and place a piece of vinyl, and it's not connected to any streaming application. Mm-hmm. It's really your own thing. There's something that I find very soothing and necessary about that.
I agree with you. And apparently so did a lot of other people, since vinyl has made a comeback, and more people are buying vinyl records than they were CDs over the last few years, which is pretty extraordinary. What's old is new, which again brings us back to what you do, which is bringing old musicals and newer ones to life in a different light. And you do this from your home studio. Can you please explain the process? Because the production value of your videos is pretty extraordinary for a one-man show.
Thank you. I mean, to watch me do it, and they've done a couple of profiles on me, like CBS Sunday Morning captured some of that. It doesn't really look like much. It's really the magic of post-production, because it's just me standing in front of a green screen in my converted bedroom in the next room. I write the thing. These days, the most production is going into the music part of it, because what's progressed since I started back in the braggadocious days, when I would just rip karaoke tracks from the internet, is now I work with a music producer and a music director, and we kind of put our heads together at the beginning and create these original tracks. Like now I have actual Broadway musicians recording these things for me. We do our own arrangements and write these fabulous harmonies that my musical director Jesse Kissel comes up with. So that's really the bulk of it. And then once I have that, I write a script. I stand in front of the green screen for an hour or so, and then I just stay up all night editing on my little MacBook. So
that's the turnaround on average is what? 24 hours?
I can do it in 20. Donald Trump, you should pardon the expression, was a good training ground for really turning out content.
Yeah.
Because, that's really, I mean.
Every day it was something else.
Every day. It was a blessing and a curse, because in those days, really, every day was a specific word or catchphrase or headline. And you had to sort of just grab onto that and just stay up all night turning it out, because by noon the next day, the news cycle was completely different.
Right. He said some other crazy shit.
Yes. And the difference now is that there's still a lot of shit to spoof, and there's a lot of, topics to cover, but it's a little more ever topical is what I call it. So I can spend some time, on my artistic process, and I'm enjoying making it a little bit more. It's not so crazy. But to answer your question, I can do it in 24 hours. Lately, I give myself about 72.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, God forbid. Give yourself 2 more extra days.
Yeah, which is like a vacation for me now.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you have neighbors? Is there ever a noise?
Not anymore. They've all moved out. No, thankfully, in the early days, thankfully, I'm now in a nicer, kind of a bigger space from when I first started. I started this in my tiny little studio apartment in Astoria, Queens, with very low ceilings, and I know that my neighbors hated me.
Unless they were closet musical theater nerds.
They-
Maybe they were singing along.
They were. I really don't think they were. But so now, thankfully, I live next to a couple. The gentleman works for the Tony Awards.
Oh.
And he's like a theater person. So they appreciate it. So they'll be like, we heard you singing the other night. I'm like, I'm sorry. They're like, no, we loved it. We love Guys and Dolls.
Right.
Yeah. So it's definitely, I'm keeping the neighbors entertained.
That's another one of my favorites of all time, by the way. Sky Masterson. Oh my goodness, the original. Marlon Brando. Oh my goodness. It's pretty funny because you think about how does someone come to this point, right? How do you get to this point in your life where you're making a living, parodying musical theater things in politics? Like it's like strange as bedfellows here. But I also know my mom and I talk about this a lot because there's so much more to people like you that have this kind of talent. My mom calls it the double side of the clown, right? It's the happy and the sad. And usually what the most creative people, that creativity and talent is harnessed from experiences in life, and sometimes not always the great ones. And I know that you've talked about, and you talk about this in your book, about your experience growing up being bullied as a kid. Talk a little bit about that and how musical theater pretty much saved your life.
Well, it's amazing to me how many people, are kind enough to come up to me and say, thank you for getting me through Trump. Thank you for getting me through the pandemic. Thank you for getting me through my own personal struggles in life. And it occurred to me how ironic that is, because all I'm doing is using these same tools, essentially music and comedy, that got me through my life and helped me through when I was struggling. So yeah, as a kid, that was my, that's how I survived the high school and before then, and being bullied. I was not the typical boy in school, like I wasn't into sports, and the other boys caught on quick, and it was a field day for the bullies.
Yeah.
But I just, through escapism and fantasy, I just got through, and my Broadway cast albums were my sanctuary.
Mm-hmm. You also talk about in your book about when you were 8 years old, how it was one of your more elaborate productions, and with your mom's support, by the way. Your mom was supportive of you from the very beginning, and but you also said that you realized that your 8-year-old bedroom looked more like a Hell's Kitchen gay bar.
Yeah.
What? Explain that.
It did. I'll send you a picture. I don't think, for some reason, one didn't make it into the book, but it did. I mean, there were posters of Patrick Swayze, circa Dirty Dancing, and I was in ballet at the time, so there was a big, life-size poster of Mikhail Baryshnikov in a crop top, just bulge out, rainbows all around, and it looked like a bathroom at a gay bar in Hell's Kitchen. All that was missing was a 2-for-1 happy hour sign.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What was your first production? Talk about that. When you were 8 in your yard.
Oh, you mean the Snow White production?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was obsessed with this thing on HBO, Snow White Live. And if you were a kid in the 80s, I don't know if this was ever on your radar, but it was a production at Radio City Music Hall. It actually it revived Radio City Music Hall, which was about to be torn down and turned into a shopping center. And that is why we now have the Christmas Spectacular. But anyway, they filmed this thing in 1979. It was a full-scale Broadway-style production of Disney's Snow White, and ran throughout the 80s. And it was my first introduction to like a live musical adaptation of something that I knew from like a 2-dimensional book or TV or movie. And so I was obsessed with it. So at 8 years old, I put on my own production of it in the backyard. I, of course, was Snow White, much to the chagrin of my little girlfriends, who I made be like the witch and the bunny. And it's nice that it's getting a lot of press now with this book, because it's kind of, it's a tribute to my mother, who I never even realized, how I took for granted how lovely that was, that she was so supportive and never made me second guess the fact that I was playing Snow White. She made me my skirt and sewed me my little, bodice, and she never had a word to say about it.
And you were Gone with the Wind fabulous by the time you were 8.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to take an opportunity to show another one of my favorite videos, which is another huge hit for you. This one didn't come from musical theater. This one came from pop music.
Okay.
And I think people will remember this one, Desperate Cheeto.
Oh, yes.
Welcome back. I'm joined now by an old friend, Donald Trump, the president. Still? Okay. You've had a rough week for about a year now. Why don't we start with some of the most recent natural disasters?
Hurricanes.
Actually, I was talking about your breath and your hair.
We started with Texas and Louisiana. Don't forget, Louisiana got hit hard. And I went to Texas and I went to Louisiana and met the people, and I think it helped. And we got very high marks. We got A+.
Good boy!
And then the following week, Puerto Rico got hit. And if you remember, it went in and out 3 times.
Wow. Well, let's not get into your sex life just yet.
Oh my gosh. Oh, they didn't cut the music part of it. But
They cut the song, but
yeah, they didn't play the song. I didn't see the clip ahead of it, but that's okay. Desperate Cheeto was a parody on the reggaeton song Despacito, right? Yeah. Hysterical, and of course, making fun of the color of his hair, the color of his skin. We don't know what that is. I think it was Anna Navarro who called him Cheeto Jesus at one point.
Oh, really? I probably owe her a royalty or two. I'll call her.
Yeah. But it's we have another one, which I think is a really good one. I think this one actually does have music. This was, I think this was after January 6th that you did Sedition.
Importantly, you ask, how does a desperate lame duck president and his bootlicking minions with no hope or evidence try to overturn an election they've clearly lost multiple times? I can tell you in one way.
We will not take it anymore.
Sedition!
Sedition!
Which comes from Fiddler on the Roof.
My mother loved that one. All the Jewish mothers in the audience just flipped for that one.
Of course, Fiddler on the Roof is a classic. And
well, I hated having my long COVID hair when I had it, but then when I see clips of it, I'm like, I want it again.
Yeah, well, I mean, it worked. You turned it into a part. And Sedition is great because when you're like, they're like, Sedition, what's that? You're like, look it up. Because I don't think a lot of people in America they didn't know what the hell sedition was until we actually experienced an attempted sedition by our own president of the United States, and you even made that funny. And there was nothing funny about it, but you had the ability to make it funny.
Right.
What has changed though in your life since Trump left office? Because like you said before, it was a whirlwind, as we say here at the Lincoln Project. Fire hose of fuckery on a daily basis. It's just it's constantly coming at you. But things have maybe changed a little bit, just a different kind of fuckery happening. But what has changed in your life though since Trump left?
Since he left, I mean, listen. I don't know. I wish on a global scale, I wish I could say things have gotten better in any way. Like I said, there's still plenty of material for me, but. Again, I really just I've been able to slow down a little bit and elaborate on my process and enjoy it a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So it's always weird and I talk about this in the book. It's a strange kind of tug of war within me that I say enjoy, but I do, but I am. It's just sort of an occupational hazard. That I try to have a good time with these topics that are otherwise horrific and tragic. So the artistic process has become a little more enjoyable. I had time to sit and write a book and do my tour and things like that. So Still plugging along. Unfortunately, come 2024, I don't know. I might have to break out the Despacito sheet music again.
I know.
I won't bring the whole party down just yet, but
yeah, we're all working very hard to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But who knows with this freaking guy? It's but it'll keep you working. That's for sure.
As long as there's misery in the world,
you'll still have work.
Yeah.
You were saying how that there's no shortage of material, and some of your more recent videos on the ridiculousness going on in the Republican Party, and some of the cast of characters over there. I call it the cacophony of kookery that we see all the time. You did a great parody of Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene called "Girl, You're a Karen." I think we have a clip from that.
Hit it.
I know. Whatever. Oh, I'll call you back. Welcome back. We are joined now by the most hated woman in Washington. The reason it's a bad idea to drink battery acid, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie, thank you so much for being with us during this difficult time. I understand they just suspended your OnlyFans account.
Well, yes, sir. I think it's very concerning. As a matter of fact, I think it's terrifying. I see it as an attack, really.
Yeah, who gives a shit?
And the rest of the video is hysterical because you also bring in Lauren Boebert, who is another just absolute moron. I can't believe these people are in Congress.
Did you see we're in a Twitter feud?
Yes, this Twitter feud. This is going on actually as we speak right now. Lauren Boebert made a comment about we went from Reading Rainbow to Randy Rainbow, as if that's an insult.
Right.
And I saw that LeVar Burton jumped into this. Is there a collab in the works?
I'm not at liberty to discuss. I'm just saying he may have just left me a voicemail before you called.
Oh,
So we have a date to discuss this. But again, it's like nice, fun, happy things coming from all of this tragic stuff. But I'm kind of proud of this. This marks the first time one of these lunatic congresswomen, is that what we call her, has invoked my name.
Right.
So clearly I'm living rent-free in her brain, as they say.
Yeah, which is probably, as small as a studio apartment in New York City.
Oh,
There's not much going on in there.
But I found it so she did say, like, it was such a blatantly homophobic remark, because obviously what she was implying was like we went from wholesome Reading Rainbow to this queen,
right?
And it's like, oh wow, like just come out and say it, Laura.
Yeah, I was reading some of the comments of that on that thread, and someone, the internet always wins. Someone called her Clanny Oakley. They said, so that's another potential video for you.
Writing it down, stealing it.
Yes.
And it gets your gun.
Yes, that's right. So, more material for you. But I look forward to that potential collab, because I don't think you've ever done a collaboration with anyone else, right?
Oh, how dare you. I wrote a whole chapter on my collaboration with Patti LuPone.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Tara,
that's different.
I'm your gay
sorry.
card.
I'm sorry.
But not many collaborations. But
right.
I think that there would be something, first of all, so full circle about that moment for me, because people have been singing that damn theme song to me since I'm a kid, talking about being bullied. It's always, butterfly in the sky.
Yeah.
My name. So that would be nice, and I love him so much.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I want to bring in a special guest, because one of my wonderful colleagues at the Lincoln Project, she was a musical theater major at Syracuse University. She sings. She's fabulous. She is our creative director. She keeps everything running on time in our creative department, and she does a lot of our voiceovers. And she's a huge fan of yours, and I adore her, and she adores you. And I wanted to give her an opportunity to chat with you and ask you a couple questions, because you are both Stephen Sondheim fans. So Michelle Kinney, come on.
Oh my gosh.
Michelle, really
Randy, it is so nice to meet you. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for joining us. So Tara texted me like an hour ago, a couple hours. She's like, do you want to come on? I'm like, yes, please. So it's I just like love this intersection of theater and politics, because I was saying before backstage before the show that I was on a call with a politician from a southern state, Democrat, whose daughter was going to school for theater and might want to get into politics at some point. And he said, there's no better training for the political world than theater. And I was like, yes. I mean, at any point in our lives, even since we were kids, right? I mean, someone would hand you a roll of Scotch tape and be like, make a show. And you're like, yes, I got this. Take direction well, we show up on time, we work hard, we can make anything happen. So, and also, I mean, some of my classmates, I mean, one of the Good Liars, I went to school with for theater. There's a reporter at MSNBC, went to musical theater school with too. I mean, he reports on politics. It's right. It's like this amazing kind of jumping point for everyone in life, I think. So, but, anyways, I had a question that just from a creative standpoint, there's, oh no, sorry.
What happened?
Lost it.
Oh my God.
I've got it. Can we hear it?
You're a Sondheim fan.
Okay.
Michelle, did you see Sondheim? Can you see Sondheim is right over here?
Now I see it. Oh my gosh.
And there's Elaine Stritch right below him.
Oh my gosh. So that was kind of inspired my question for you. Is there's, the big question of what comes first, the lyrics or the music? And for you, I always wonder what comes first, the idea or the song? Like, is there a target or a person that you want to parody first? Or do you hear the song and then the idea or kind of flows through you? How does that work?
It's a combo platter. Sometimes, I mean, I'm very gay. And so I think naturally in show tunes. And I was, so sometimes, and I'm sure you both can relate to this, it's a coping mechanism for me to find the musical theater parallel to any situation in life. It always has been. So sometimes that'll click. Sometimes it's just wordplay. Sometimes, certainly when Trump was in the headlines, in the White House, just words or phrases that he would use just triggered, lyrics and things like that. And I also keep a running list of songs that I just want to do. Like if I want to, live my best life and play Anita in West Side Story, which is probably offensive at this point, but I will just kind of somehow work my way, work that idea in to that construct there.
Michelle, you should tell Randy about, since he brought up Anita, tell him your anecdote about Anita.
Oh, right.
He'll appreciate it.
Right. So a friend of mine, where I was doing a show in North Carolina, this is like, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, there's a castmate of mine who was teaching theater in the area. And he said, I have the student who'd love to come see the show. She came to see the show. We became like fast friends. She didn't live in the city yet. She would come, we would hang out when she had auditions. I think she slept on my couch once or twice. Turns out she just won, she just won the Oscar for West Side Story. I mean, it's just amazing to kind of see, like take this, this whole journey in her career from like this little kid that I knew.
I'm such a fan.
Yeah, she's such an awesome person and such a talent and a good heart. So, theater bringing all the people together.
It does. I find that it's funny that you make that connection to theater and politics. That's something that I certainly never, was set out to do in my work. I just, but I found that, people do make that connection a lot for a number of reasons. But really, and I say this all the time, I'm not a political person by nature. I certainly have become more woke to certain topics through the years. But the videos that I do, that's really not what gets me out of bed to make this. At the heart of what I do is someone who just is dressing up and playing fantasy and having a marvelous time singing.
Well, you're a storyteller, right? I mean, and you're telling the story in a way that people can ingest and laugh and can give them an escape from the horrors of the day. And, you make people smile in a time that can be very, very dark. And I think, in some way, I mean, obviously our work is a little bit different here, the Lincoln Project and the content that you create. But I do think there's a lot of similarities there. I even said to our team this morning on a call, I said, just remember that sometimes we have to help people laugh too. It's important, in the buffoonery of it all.
Absolutely.
It's a biblical principle, right? Laughter does good like medicine.
There's nothing stronger, in my opinion.
That's right. Well, I know another inspirational theater figure for you, Michelle, and I know for you too, Randy, is Jonathan Larson. And you put together this masterful parody called Seasons of Trump. We have a clip.
Minutes with just one president, so unhinged and unfit. 2,102,400 minutes. How do you measure 4 years of this shit?
Pandemic hair.
I know, let's let it go. In scandals, right? In Scaramucci's, which was, I cracked up.
So good.
And have you had any conversation with Anthony Scaramucci about that? Did he ever reach out to you?
Yes, I had spoken to him before that. He is a fan, and
he's a trip.
He's lovely, I find.
Yeah. He's a fan of the show.
Is he? Yeah, love him. And I think that I think that he specifically after that video did reach out and say he was honored to be included.
Right. He's now.
You want to talk?
He's now a time. No, I'm saying he's now a time frame, right? Yeah. How many Scaramucci's?
Exactly.
And if you want to talk about cast recordings, I mean, people from our age group, especially. I mean, Randy, I think we're about the same age. Like, I mean, 11th grade. I mean, that thing was like, I don't know how that 2-disc set like made it through. It still plays, but I mean, that's kind of the soundtrack of our teen years, and so. You know, it made me laugh so hard. I loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah, and just hearing that now, just hearing that those first chords, you know. So it's not surprising that this stuff touches people.
Yep.
The way it does. It's musical theater, man. It just goes straight to the heart.
Which is why it's timeless, you know. And I'm just glad to see more like the younger generations now beginning to get into it, like with Hamilton, and like bringing in a whole new generation of people appreciating musical theater in ways that I think our parents and grandparents did, you know, at their time and passed it down to us. I think that's pretty cool.
On that topic, you two will probably appreciate this, because one of the things I pride myself in is that I don't always do the most contemporary stuff, as you've just shown. I mean, I give you Oklahoma, I give you Guys and Dolls. I've always loved the classics.
Yep.
And recently at one of my live shows, we do a Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
And the mother of a Gen Z and her daughter came up and said, "We like you, but," you know, she immediately had grievances to air. "But my daughter doesn't know Oklahoma. She doesn't know all those old musicals, and you should do more contemporary things so that the younger people know what you're saying." And I said, well, first of all, this is maybe a nice time to teach your daughter that not everything is created specifically for her. And if she's a friend of mine, and I love to hear that she is, maybe she'll learn a little something new.
Right.
But, like, does she think that I would, like, Oklahoma is from my time? Like, I was not born. You know,
right.
I learned things that came before me. There's something nice about that sometimes. It's worth kind of giving yourself a history lesson. So I do the Hamiltons, I do the Wickeds and the contemporary stuff. I love that, but I will always, you know, go back into the classics.
Absolutely. One of my all-time favorites is On the Town, and I'm a big Gene Kelly fan. And a couple of years ago, my husband and I did like a screen on the green in Bryant Park here in the city. And I don't know if you've ever done that, where you have to like you have to wait at the boundaries of the park until like 5 o'clock on the dot, and they say you can go, and everybody hauls ass and runs like it's a derby to lay a spot on the grass with your blanket so that you can watch a movie.
And you crack open your wine, and you're like, "This is awesome."
It's fantastic, but it's a whole thing. But we saw On the Town there.
I was so
excited when it was part of the lineup. You know, I have an old soul that way too, but that's because of my mom. And her mom, you know, and it's I think it's important to hand those things down, right? Before we let you go, I had to ask you one more question, and then we have one more video. And Michelle, I know this was something that we had discussed before. It's kind of all related. But when you go on tour and people talk to you, and you mentioned this a little bit before, how they've said you've helped them get through the pandemic or Trump, or what has been the most impactful thing that a fan has ever said to you?
Well, I mean, appropriately, since we were just kicking off Pride Month, I'm honored and moved the most when I have younger kids in my audience stand up, or parents of younger kids, thanking me for being an example of someone who is just unabashedly being himself. And that's not something that I, put a lot of thought into. I'm learning to appreciate that more about myself. And again, that's a testament to my mother for never making me, second guess who I was. But, I just had someone, I think it was in Las Vegas, I had a young kid come out during my Q&A. And
Wow.
they said, I'd like to take this opportunity, if you don't mind, to come out to my family who's in the audience. And it just meant so much to me that they chose my show to do that they felt that was a safe space. So that means the most to me, for sure.
I think that's for those of us who have platforms, we don't take that for granted, and it's amazing every time you find out that even if you've touched just one person's life, it makes it all worth it. As most people know, the reason why I'm in my hotel room as opposed to my normal set is because I'm doing The View this week. I've been
loving you. Just
Thank you so much. And it's it's an incredible honor to have a platform like that. And you don't realize sometimes how much of an impact that you have on people's lives. Sometimes it's just one line. And a couple of months ago when I was guest hosting, we were talking about mental health. And I was saying how, and childhood trauma, and how my husband had abandonment childhood trauma from his mother, and his triplet brothers being abandoned by his mother, and they ended up in an orphanage, and it's a whole story. But his story is very inspirational, yet he still needed to go to therapy to work through some of those abandonment issues. And I was encouraging people to don't be afraid to do that. That's not weakness. It's okay to talk to someone and work that out, and you'll be liberated from that dark cloud over you from all those years, whatever that trauma is. And a woman sent me an email over the weekend asking me, saying she saw me on The View and asking me for the name of the therapist that my husband went to, because her husband also had really bad childhood trauma and she wants him to get well. And she thanked me for talking about that on The View and giving her the inspiration to help her husband with this. And it brought me to tears, because you just don't realize who you're touching, on an everyday basis. So I can appreciate your sentiment on that, Randy.
It's very powerful. And, none of this was the thing that ultimately led to me being able to have this platform that I'm honored to have, was when I kind of just relaxed into being myself. And when I stopped thinking so much about it, because when you start out, and especially in comedy and performance, you think, who should I be? What should my angle be? Should I be more gay? Should I be less gay? Should I be more political? Should I talk more about entertainment? And then finally, I just said, let me just have fun and do this organically and do what I love. And ultimately, that was my greatest success, because what comes from the heart goes to the heart. So it's nice when you I guess you get old enough to realize that. Although I'm 26.
Of course.
I know. I was like, we're 25, 26.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Which makes me just about to turn 30. Well, Randy, listen, you've come a long way from being a host at Hooters.
How dare you bring that up?
You write about it. So what's in the future for you before we close on this? What's in the future? Please tell me there's some kind of Broadway production for you in the future, because you were born to be on Broadway, darling.
I know. Listen, I hope we are in talks with some fancy schmancy Broadway types. It's my hope. I don't have any news to break just yet, but I would love to do maybe a limited engagement Broadway spectacular, perhaps in 2024. It's going to be an election year. There's going to be plenty of material. And that's my short-term goal for now. Other than that, I have a new podcast that you will both come be guests on that Sean Hayes and his team are producing. We've got Carol Burnett and Bernadette Peters and Titus Burgess and Cheyenne Jackson. So lots of fun people. And also working on some TV things. And there's lots in development. And of course, there's no shortage of material with these fucking Looney Tunes. And
Amen.
For you and for us at the Lincoln Project.
Every day.
Every day.
We always say at the creative department, we're like, we watch it so you don't have to. Like, we'll get it to you. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
That's right. And by the way, my mom, she actually was on tour with Bernadette Peters way back in the day in the 1970s. And so
what show? What, Song and Dance?
I think it was Hair. Or was that Beverly D'Angelo? She did something else with
Bernadette did not do Hair.
It might have been Beverly D'Angelo for Hair. I have to ask my mom what show it was with Bernadette Peters, but she did something with her too. So yes.
Next time I'm in a city near you, because we're announcing my fall tour soon. And when I'm near anybody, please come, bring your mother, bring your everybody.
Oh,
you always get tickets at my box office. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. And when you're on Broadway, I would love to be there opening night to support you.
You got tickets.
So we're gonna let you go on this final note because it is Pride Month. And because my illustrious co-host, Rick Wilson, isn't here today, but when he is, we always make fun of Florida because that's his home state. I know that you spent time in Florida as well as a kid and got the hell out of there.
I did time in Florida, yes.
Yes, you did time in Florida. And so we often go after Ron DeSantis. And you did a fantastic parody concerning Ron DeSantis and this ridiculous "Don't Say Gay" bill nonsense that they're doing in Florida. And so what a way to kick off Pride Month here at the Lincoln Project. What better way than with the Randy Rainbow and with your classic "Don't Say Gay" video with Ron DeSantis. We're going to play this and then we're going to thank you on the end. You can watch it.
We are back and I'm joined now by Ron DeSantis, governor of the great state of... Wait, which is the one that's shaped like a big dick?
Florida.
Oh, right, Florida. Sir, you recently signed into law the controversial Parental Rights in Education bill, which some have called the Don't Say Gay bill, and others have called the Girl Fuck That bill.
I think it's probably the most comprehensive piece of legislation I've seen.
Critics say that this bigoted legislation will rob kids of a safe space to have a healthy discussion about their identities. I mean, how would you feel if we signed a bill prohibiting everyone from talking about slimy, self-interested douchebag politicians with no sex appeal who buy all their suits off the clearance rack at Burlington Coat Factory?
We at the state can stop that. I look and see how this media operates, this corporate media. What about all the people they've smeared over the years who are not governors?
Someone's being an asshole. That's no way to be. Honey D, here's the tea. Gosh, I'd hate to upset your Republican peers. So let me say this soft so no one hears. I've always been.
Here's an interesting fact.
Gay! Oops, I said it. I'm gay! You can bet it's a badge that I wear with a fabulous flair. 'Cause I'm gay, 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 gay. Sorry.
Yes.
The line about the suits takes me out. It's so funny.
It's very accurate. Don't you think Burlington Coat Factory is so on point, if I do say?
Yes.
Right?
I think that's an up north thing too. I don't know. Do they have Burlington Coat Factories anywhere else with the Northeast?
They had it at the Sawgrass Mall in Florida.
Oh, they did. I know exactly where that is, actually. That's hilarious.
Anyway,
Anyway,
girl, that suit doesn't fit you. Mm-mm.
that's right. No, yes, nothing fits him because he's the worst. Randy Rainbow, you are a national treasure, my darling. And we just love you. Keep doing what you do. And we'll have you back. And I hope to see you sooner than later, my dear.
Please. Love talking to you both. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, is Randy Rainbow not the best?
The best. The best.
I'm so glad you got a chance to chat with him.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of
Thank
course.
you so much.
Of course. I
This
know
has been
where
so
your
fun.
heart is.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, I just want to thank everyone and thank Michelle for coming to hang out with us for a little bit. You get a chance to see the beautiful face behind the voice on some of our voiceovers here at the Lincoln Project, and you know, our creative director, and give her a little shine too, because she deserves it. She works her ass off. Thank you guys, everybody, for watching, and you guys are the best audience. We'll see you guys next week when Rick and I are back together in full force. So